Hello, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Kid Broadway podcast, intimate conversations with community and professional actors in Broadway news. And today we are chatting with Elizabeth Adabale. Now please, sit back, relax, and enjoy the Kid Broadway podcast. So the first question that I always like to ask is, where are you from?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Carson, California, which is a suburb in SoCal. So, grew up in LA and lived there for most of my life until I moved to New York last year.
Okay. And how did you get into the whole theater thing?
Yeah, so I've always loved singing, and I remember I used to make a music video with my little sister, Garage, and in middle school, actually, I got opportunity to pick an elective in 6th grade, and so I could have picked drama or band or ceramics, so I chose drama. And my middle school had a huge budget that they can put towards theater, and so I was able to be in my first musical in 6th grade, which was Anything Goes, and that was sort of my introduction into theater, and I've loved it ever since. So that was pretty much my introduction into everything.
That's cool. Do you have any pre-show rituals?
Yeah, so before show, I like to listen to music just because it helps me sort of get in the zone. Usually I listen to music while I put on my makeup or get my wigs done, things like that. I would also say making sure that I'm a Christian, and so I always usually pray before performances as well, just to make sure that I'm centered and that I'm focused, and so that I can, get what I need to get done before shows. And then a lot of times when I'm in a cast, we'll do a pre-show circle. And so when I was on tour with The Color Purple, pretty much before every show, we would always come together and do a prayer before each show. So that really helps me get centered within myself, as well as get centered with the people that are in my cast.
Yeah, and you were in the national tour of The Color Purple as the Church Lady and Sophia. How was that experience?
Oh my gosh, I loved being on tour. It was the first time in my life that I just was an actress full time, and that was the only thing that I did. It was a pretty incredible experience getting to travel the country. I got to visit, I think, over 25 states, states that I never would have thought I'd gone to. I would have visited Kansas and South Dakota, and it was a learning experience as well. You learn a lot about what it takes not only to do a show like Purple, but also a show over 100 times. Before I had went on tour, the longest that I had ever done a show was maybe a month or a month and a half, and so we were touring for 5-6 months, and so it definitely teaches you how to keep things fresh, how to still have fun even though you've done a show a bunch of times. But yeah, I would say it was really a learning experience. I got really close with my cast. There was only about 20 of us, and then you're also getting to travel with the band, the orchestra, as well as our crew. And so we became a little family, and it was great being able to experience different cities, experience the show together, and it was unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to end our tour a little earlier than we had anticipated, but we still got to perform over 100 times, and that was, I think, so worth it, and I'm really grateful to have had that experience.
And how was the audition process like for The Color Purple?
So my audition story is probably a little bit different than most. I actually auditioned for the show for the first time in July of 2019, and I actually didn't get a call back. And so I ended up going to another, at that time I was living in New York, but I ended up taking a contract in Indiana. So I was actually in Indianapolis doing a production of Hairspray, and while I was there, I had seen that The Color Purple was still looking for people to fill out their cast, so they were still casting. And I was a little apprehensive because I had already auditioned and didn't hear back, and so I wasn't sure if it was worth me submitting. But I decided to go ahead and submit, and so I got an audition, and I was told to submit a self-tape. And so essentially they sent me a few different songs and scenes that they wanted me to put on tape. And so I spent a lot of time going over those different scenes, going over the song. I got my friend in Indianapolis to help me tape it. And I sent in this audition tape, which is about like 12 minutes long. And about a week and a half later, I found out that I booked the tour. So I actually booked the tour. A certain place is different. I know sometimes, like, you hear about these Broadway stories where someone walks in and they have one audition and they're on Broadway, and some people it takes years. And so I think it's just a testament to, like, everyone might have a different path, but ultimately I was so happy when I found out that I booked the show. And so, yeah, my audition, at first I didn't get it, and then I booked it. So I guess it's a lesson in, always putting your best foot forward.
And do you look up to anyone in the theater world?
Oh my gosh, yes. I would say one of the first people that comes to mind is Patina Miller, who I am like obsessed with her because Sister Act is one of my favorite shows that I've ever done, and she originated the role of Dolores on Broadway, and was also in Pippin, leading Claire. She was in Hunger Games, the movie, which I love those books, and she recently just played the witch in Into the Woods at the Hollywood Bowl. So I just adore her ability to be so dynamic. She does, comedic roles, she does grounded roles, and has been able to cross over into like TV and film as well, which is something that I ultimately want to do. I would also say, like, Audra McDonald, of course, just being the trailblazer that she is as an African-American woman, to have the most Tony wins for Best Actress. And I think she's also the first person to be nominated in every single acting category as, like, a featured role and the main role. And so her ability to just continuously break down barriers for women, specifically Black women, is really admirable. I would say those are two people that like jump out at me. Also Cynthia Erivo, because just hearing her story and her with The Color Purple, and now seeing her success outside of theater, as well as like TV and film, she's a Nigerian like me, and so I think that's another level of a connection that I have with her, just because we have similar upbringings and similar cultures, so that's something that really connects me with her as well. So I would say like those three Black women are probably some of the most influential people that I've had in my trajectory, for sure.
And what advice would you give to younger people listening now going down a similar path?
I would say, like, gosh, I have so much advice. I used to be a teacher, so I feel like I'm about to put my teacher hat on. But I think, number one, like, if you have the desire, have the passion, then pursue it. I think I tried to fight it for a while. I've done a lot of different things in my life. Like, I've been a teacher, I've been a recruiter, I've been a lot of different things, and I realized that, like, my passion for theater never went away, and I think I tried to rationalize it sometimes, saying, like, oh, well, I need to find something more stable or something that's more sure, and, like, that's fair. But I would say, like, if you have the passion for it, then pursue it. You know, you're young. You don't have to be married to one line of work right now, and so it's a really awesome opportunity to explore different avenues. I would also say, you know, doing the work. I think sometimes, particularly with social media, I think there tends to be this ideology that, like, oh, like, if I'm not on Broadway by the time that I'm 18, then I'm too late. Or if I'm not, you know, famous by this age, then I've done it too late. And I think everyone's trajectory is different. Everyone's trajectory is different. Like, if you look at, for example, Andre DeShields, who just won the Tony for Hadestown last year. I think he's in his 70s. And, you know, if he had told himself, oh, if I'm not on Broadway by the time I'm 18, then I'm never going to be on Broadway, then he never would have been able to be so impactful in the work that he does. And so I think that, you know, it's hard not to compare yourself to other people, especially with social media. It's easy to see people that have been able to, you know, reach their dreams at a really young age. I think that if you have the desire and the passion to pursue theater, to pursue acting, know that, you know, everyone's journey is different, but ultimately, as long as the passion is there, that's what should continue to drive you. And also that Broadway isn't the end-all, be-all. That this time in our country with COVID and having things shut down, you know, it shows you that, like, those things, like Broadway and, like, the, you know, Hollywood, they might not always be around. And so finding ways to still be fulfilled as an artist, even without those platforms, is really important. Because if you're just doing theater to be on Broadway, and Broadway is shut down, it's like, well, there has to be another reason that you're a performer. And for me, I've realized during the time that, you know, having an artistic outlet is really important. That's why I'm, like, on TikTok now. And I love, because you get to be creative and, you know, make content and just have fun.
Yeah.
I've been able to do, like, virtual readings of different musicals where we just get together, we'll do, you know, a production of Grease online just because, even though there's no live audience. And it's about just finding the love of the craft. I think that's probably the most important.
And we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but are you up to anything right now? Any new projects?
As far as acting goes, I've been doing a lot more, like, online things. I just did a virtual reading of Grease where I got to play Sandy, which is so much fun. I'm a part of this Facebook group called NYC Musical Theater Performers, and it's not only for people that are in NYC, but yeah, we basically every week will do different readings of musicals. So that's what I've been doing to, like, stay creatively fulfilled, as well as being on TikTok and things like that. But I'm in New York now still, and I'm working a new job, and so really right now I'm just taking the time to refresh. I've also been taking classes with One NYC, which is a online resource where you can take classes with different casting directors, so that's been fun. Just being able to, you know, keep learning, you know. Being on a tour was something that was definitely a huge goal of mine, but I still feel like I have so much to learn, and some practice that I can be doing with my craft. That's pretty much how I've been spending my time. It's finding creative ways to have that outlet, as well as, like, taking class as much as I can and networking with people.
Yeah. And so we can find you on Instagram at Liz Adabale. Is there anywhere else we can find you?
Yes, I am on TikTok at Liz Adabale. That's LizAdabale. I'm also on Twitter, same at Liz Adabale. I also have a website, www.elizabethadabale.com. But yeah, just Google me. I'm there.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Wilson.
Yeah.